and we're taking care of them. If you stop and look at the development and the progress that we've made on Yellowstone over the past 5 years, it's amazing. I mean, it's improving, and it's going to continue to do so. And that's how I see our community moving forward.
Mr. Parrish?
Occasionally I make the mistake of asking my son to run down to Cow Ranch to pick me something up, and he says, "Where's that at?" And I say, "The Westwood Mall." And he looks at me like, "What on earth are you talking about?" A few years ago, I finally quit sending my kids to Pocatello Mall to pick me up anything, because there's no such a thing. Malls come and go. That's a matter of supply and demand. It's a matter of law of capitalism. My job as a city father would be to encourage those companies to come and be a part of what we do. And if I can in any way help the owners of that property convince some business to come in and be a part of our community, that's the role I want to play. What can I do to help you make that happen? But I'm not going to do it for them. They're private industry and they're better at it than I am in their particular industry. Personally, I don't want to eat at Olive Garden. I like jumbos. I prefer ribs and green tea on Thursday. There's no question about that. Olive Garden doesn't attract me at all. My wife doesn't go with me to those places. She wants to go to Olive Garden. If there's a demand, that supply will be provided. Our job is to provide the kind of community where those companies see, I want to be there. I want to be a part of that. I can see where we're going to make some money if we come to that community. So we make that happen by building our communities, by bringing those jobs in, by saying, come and be a part of what we're doing. You will like it, and we'll like it too.
Thank you. This next question will go first to Mr. Collier. And, oh, do you have water left in your, we have a technical issue for a moment. This next question will start with Mr. Collier. How do you plan to involve the citizens in the future decisions made in Chubbuck?
I alluded to this a little bit earlier. I did a search on the web of a number of, I guess, about a dozen cities, some of them larger, but most of them about the size of Chubbuck. And all of them had committees that worked advising the city in various areas, such as with roads. Maybe one would be with the fire department, one would be the police department, and not telling them how to do, but for instance, we say, all right, we've got this problem with roads. What are we going to do about it? What's the most efficient way of building it? Is there some way we can rebuild our roads and save some money? And then this committee goes out across the nation, and it's very easy today, and they see what others have done and come back with ideas. You know, I have kind of this personal philosophy that you can solve almost any problem if you throw enough money at it. And if we have the money, that's what we do. And that's the problem I have with set budgets, is we have the money, then we use it. I personally favor zero-based budgeting, where we make a decision exactly what we're going to do during this year.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. Mr. Kramer?
As I've gone through the city this past few months, I've noticed that we're no longer a city of just the Nider edition or the Stewart edition. We're a community. We're a city now. To create involvement, you go to each subdivision, ask a person to serve on the board, and that board meets on a regular basis. What is important to the Stewart edition may not be important to the Nider edition. What may be important up on the hill perhaps isn't quite so important out at the Heritage subdivision. And so you bring a committee, a representative of each subdivision together, where they have the opportunity to voice what is wrong with their subdivision and what's right. And as they meet together, I found that when people meet, they share a common bond. They want to help each other, and they want to grow. As we do that, we can find out the needs and the wants of the city, and we can adjust them into the budget so we grow into a community that is pleasant, safe, and environmentally friendly.
Thank you. Mr. Ellis?
One of the things that I've tried to do over the last 4 years is I've had to address some fairly difficult decisions as I've gone out and I've actually sought individuals from different demographic groups. And probably even more specifically those that would probably be less inclined to share my point of view. Simply because I want to know what they want, what their needs are, where they think things should go. I have my own personal preferences, I have my own personal tendencies. I think to say that that's not the case would be disingenuous. But I think as you reach out to citizens and as you talk to the different demographics, you get a feel for what people are wanting. The biggest challenge to committees, and I'm not opposed to committees, but I've been involved with committees where you have a few select people that if they're the loudest, they think that they're the majority. And I think as a city council member, it's my job, and I feel that I've done that, is trying to filter through who just wants to talk the loudest. And I generally have a loud voice, so I've probably been guilty of that once or twice. But trying to find out the needs of all of the demographics, and I think you have to do that by asking questions.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis?
I'll preface my response to this by first saying Chubbuck is a pretty darn good place to live. You know, by and large, the objections, the gripes, the challenges that people feel are the things we've talked about tonight. Roads, you know, increase in the expenses, the services that we're paying, and people want more for less. But other than that, I've not heard a tremendous amount of specific problems that the individual citizens and residents are experiencing. Having said that, I think it's a great idea to have committees with a person from each subdivision talking and voicing an opinion. Why we should do one subdivision's road instead of another. Let them talk about it and understand that the council is concerned with the whole city and they have to address the crises as they do come up. What I would do as a city councilman, the city councilmen get their packets for each meeting well in advance. They have the opportunity to open that packet and find out what the issues are and talk to people well in advance. By nature, I ask questions. I guarantee you that I will not be opening my packet the night of council meeting and deciding what my vote's going to be as I sit up here on this bench. I will know in advance because I will have asked questions of the citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Mansfield?
You know, I had a friend of mine who lives up on Chubbuck Road ask me when I got elected to city council if I would get the speed limit lowered back down to 25 on Chubbuck Road. And I told him, I said, well, I'm not going to make any promises, and I can almost guarantee that that's not going to happen. You know, there's a lot of things that as a government entity we can't do, and we can't make promises like that. One thing that I think is important that we realize and that we look at as a city council is our youth. We need to make sure and keep our youth involved in the decisions that we're making as a community. They're a huge portion of our community, and they should have a voice in our community. The second item, I agree with the subdivision representation. I think each subdivision, and maybe even within each subdivision, you might have differing concerns. But I think that's something that we really need to encourage. We need to encourage our businesses to be involved in the decisions that we make. We need to help them come to city council meetings and express their concerns. We also need to make sure that we are getting a pulse on our city employees. They give us the temperature of the city. I mean, we have great, outstanding personnel in our city, and they live throughout the community. Who better to give you an idea of what the concerns of the community are than our city employees?
Thank you. Mr. Parrish?
I need you to ask that question. I was busy
Sure.
trying not to spill water.
Thank you, by the way. I don't know if everyone's been rescued, but if not, I'm sure someone will leap up to get more water. Leaping. Here's the question. How do you plan to involve the citizens in the future decisions made in Chubbuck?
The easy answer to that is you got to talk to them. You got to get out and be where they're at and visit with them. What's going on in your lives? How can I help you? I have concern. You can committee a problem to death and never solve it. You create another committee to look at another thing. Frankly, you're having that chance tonight, and in a week from now, you're going to vote for a committee of people to come in and help get those problems solved. That's what you're doing. You're electing people from all over the city to come in and help get those problems solved. I'm not convinced that we have to have some demographic representation that says this subdivision and that subdivision and that subdivision. How about Mobile Manor? Do they qualify? What about Pheasant Ridge? I'm not sure if they qualify or not. I don't know how you even make that kind of a call. They gotta be old, they gotta be young, they gotta be women, they gotta be men, they gotta be black, they gotta be white, they gotta be disabled or not. What are the divisions? I don't know that. What I know is as a community, my job as a city councilman is to go out and talk to you. How do I do that? I go to your meetings. Where are you at? What are you doing? Come to my Lions Club meeting with me. Let's talk about it there. Let me come to where you're at. Invite me to come over and say, what's happening at this deal? What's happening over here? I'd be happy to come and talk to you about it. You talk to me. What I know is God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth, suggesting to me, I don't listen very well, talk less, listen more. That way I can hear what your problems are. And then I can come up here as your elected representative and say, this is what the people want. I don't need another committee to tell me how to do that. That's what you're trying to elect me to do, is to be that committee, to help say what needs to happen in Chubbuck. How do we make it better? Let me be a part of that.
Thank you. Mr. Pippin?
Well, one of the things that I've learned in the past 20 years of public service is probably the most effective way to find out what's going on in people's lives and what challenges they face is go out and talk to them. And I would probably do that on occasion, as time permitted. Just go out in the neighborhoods and wander the streets, so to speak, and maybe knock on a few doors and talk to people and see what they're thinking, see what the challenges are. And I think it's kind of important to maybe meet on their territory, so to speak, not in an office, not in a meeting necessarily with a lot of other people around, but on their territory, over the backyard fence, where they're more comfortable. I'm not even sure it should be neutral territory. It's okay to play on their home field. I think we're more likely to find out what the gut level issues are and just talk to them and then bring those to the decisions that the council needs to make. I don't think we can do it primarily by sitting in an office or being in a large committee meeting. I think one-on-one communication is going to be more effective, and that's what I try to do to develop those opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. This question will go first to Mr. Craner. If the opportunity arose to merge fire departments with Pocatello, what would your position be?
Number one, I moved to the city of Chubbuck because it was just that, the city of Chubbuck. I pay my taxes to the city of Chubbuck. I elect representatives to the city of Chubbuck. I have met with the fire department. I have talked with them. They are on track to grow and develop as the city grows. Right now, we are an entity of ourselves. Everyone calls us a close cousin, a bedroom community, but we are a city, 14th or 16th largest in the state of Idaho. It would take a great deal of let me just back that up. I am not in favor of merging our fire departments. We have trained our people, we have equipment, and we have a good tax base. As we continue to grow as a city, our departments will also grow, and we need to maintain that identity. We are the city of Chubbuck. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ellis?
The fire department is, I'll liken it to insurance. You don't want to be underinsured, but you can't necessarily pay to be overinsured either. I mean, it's something that you need to have, but we don't have an unlimited budget. So would I consider it? I would look at it. I would ask some very difficult questions. My concern is that I feel that Chubbuck is growing, and Chubbuck is growing faster than Pocatello at this current time. And to combine the two departments, I would be concerned at the level of control that the city of Chubbuck and that the citizens and the residents of Chubbuck would be giving up by combining. However, I feel that in doing my job, I should look at it. I should see, are there significant cost savings? Would it be more effective? Would it be more productive? I think that's also one of the things that you have to do as a member of the city council, is you have to be open-minded and you have to be willing to ask questions and you have to be able to follow ideas to where you think they're going to end and see if it's going to be beneficial or not. But I think for the most part, I'm going to make Pocatello look bad, and we're going to give them a run for their money, and we're no longer going to be the little bedroom community. They're going to have to step up their game.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis?
The opportunity presented itself. Would I support a merger of the two fire departments? That's a really big question, and not something that can be answered in a minute and a half, or even if we talked about it all night tonight. I don't have the knowledge and the expertise and the qualifications to even begin to analyze that question, and I would be hard-pressed to think that even a group of us could adequately do that in this room. If that opportunity presented itself, I would certainly give it consideration like I would any other issue that comes before the City of Chubbuck. The City of Chubbuck presently has an agreement to service 2 fire districts near us. What does that mean? That means they get second-rate service if they have something that competes with a fire need in Chubbuck. Do I want that to happen in Chubbuck if we merge with Pocatello? Absolutely not. That would be an issue that I would investigate if it was presented to me. On the other hand, we want to fix roads, and we want to lower our costs for providing water and sewer and garbage. And one of the ways to do that is to get economies of scale in what services we provide as a community. So if this issue comes before me as a city councilman, I'll look at the facts. But tonight I would say I couldn't support that because I just don't know how it would turn out.
Thank you. Mr. Mansfield?
I agree with Ryan. I mean, this is a huge question, and really we're not qualified as candidates to even comment on this issue. I've also met with our fire department. I have several friends in the fire department, and I have the utmost confidence in our fire department here. You know, I was talking to Chief King tonight. My mother passed away Sunday night, and she was in Florida, and she went into a heart attack, and an ambulance was on their way to get her and broke down. And the second ambulance came there, and by that time it was too late, you know. And that would be the things that I would really look at with our fire department is what kind of response time are we going to have, what kind of level of service are we going to have before I ever go into even a consideration of merging our fire department with the City of Pocatello.
Thank you. Mr. Parrish?
I can almost hear my dad screaming at me. He and his brothers, Denny Jones and Earl Clark, and a handful of others started the Chubbuck Volunteer Fire Department 50-some years ago, and we were really proud of it. It was the best fire department in the state. They had competitions. They always won. But it's not the City of Chubbuck. It's a department in the City of Chubbuck, and if it can better provide services more efficiently and more effectively by joining with the City of Pocatello, hey, let's find that out. If it's an option we ought to look at, let's look at it. Maybe it's the right thing to do. I certainly do not know the answer to that question. What I know is that we need to be able and be willing to investigate it and set aside our parochial opinions about what constitutes a real city or not, and make the right decision based on what's best for our city. I have a good friend that was the chief police in Taylorsville, Utah. Now he's a chief deputy in the Unified Police Force of Salt Lake City. And he says it's the best thing they ever did. They don't have 3 or 4 or 10 different administrations, they only have one. They don't have 5 different police forces trying to buy resources, they have one. It's a far better operation for them. I'm guessing I could find somebody else in that unified force that would say, horrible, terrible choice, terrible, we're not getting the kind of service we used to get before. I don't know that guy, but I'm guessing he's out there. It needs to be investigated. We need to look at it and say, is it the right thing to do? And then make a decision. Again, that's what you're hiring the people that sit at this desk to do, is to make that kind of decision.
Thank you. Mr. Pippin?
Thank you. The questions that occur to me in consideration of merging of a fire department or even a police force, the first thing is, what do we get? What's it going to cost? Is it going to be, if it's an additional cost, is it going to be worth it? If it's going to be a savings, what do we have to give up? Do we need to do it? What I would prefer to see rather than perhaps an integrated fire department or a merged fire department would be some kind of an integrated operations plan that that maintains the identity of our fire department and Pocatello Fire Department, and yet we have the capability to mutually reinforce and back each other up. I think we could achieve some of those economies of scale that was spoken about earlier, and yet maintain the operational independence. So, what do we get? What's it going to cost? And is it worth that price?
Thank you. Mr. Collier?
As I understand, we do have a cooperative agreement with the city of Pocatello and others. And I think that we need to really investigate whether or not we have gone far enough or maximized that position rather than merging the departments. However, having said that, I think that I would be in favor of a study. We certainly need to look at it and see, probably not for right now, but down the road, where we're going to be down the road in 10 or 15 years. Would that be something that would work out well for us? So we should study it, but I would look at the cooperative agreement and maximizing that effort.
Thank you. This question will go first to Mr. Ellis. What do you think of the Affordable Care Act, known as Obamacare, and does it affect Chubbuck?
That's a really good question. A little loaded for a political night, huh? It absolutely affects the city of Chubbuck. We are an employer, and we have over 50 employees. So it impacts us. I personally am not in favor of the Affordable Care Act as written. I feel that it is not a free market solution in any way, shape, or form. That being said, it is the law. I will fight and work to replace the law because I don't like it. But until such time as it changes, I do have to work under the constraints as being a member of the city council. And so it will impact the city of Chubbuck. It will impact our budget. It will impact the current insurance program that we have at the city of Chubbuck. And so in the next 6 months, it will be an issue that we'll have to look at, and we will have to see does our current plan meet the requirements. As you know, the employer mandate was put off and pushed back. So there is some time for the city of Chubbuck to look at that. I will be diligent in finding ways to make it as cost effective as possible for the city of Chubbuck. But unfortunately, it is the law until I'm able to find a way to make that change.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis?
City Council is a nonpartisan office, and I want to honor the commitment that I've made to keep it that way. Having said that, I believe that the Affordable Health Care Act will impact the city, as it will impact probably all of us. If you know anything about federal legislation, you know that it's not like 4 paragraphs and you know everything about it. The legislation is lengthy. Probably very few people in this city, let alone state, have actually read it to know exactly what it is. There appear to be challenges in its implementation. And that's the nature of legislation. I think what it highlights is you have to be careful in the legislation that you pass. As a city council, you have to be careful. You have to know what you're passing before you pass it. Otherwise, you're left guessing how it will apply. I will be going to a CLE, a continuing legal education, here in about a month, where a local law firm is going to be discussing that. I'll probably be better equipped at that point to know exactly how it impacts the city of Chubbuck, which does have more than 50 employees. I think the bottom line is that it is the law. And however it impacts us, the city council needs to be educated to make the best decision for providing the health services that are going to be mandated under that.
Thank you. Mr. Mansfield?
Thank you. So as I said, I'm an engineer, so healthcare is not my forte. However, my wife is the manager of a home health agency, and let me tell you, I've had more than one earful about the Affordable Health Care Act and Obamacare in particular. She sees directly how it impacts her patients and how it impacts the people that she deals with on a daily basis. How I see this, I definitely see it affecting the city of Chubbuck. Not only the employees of the city of Chubbuck, but also the people that live here. I see it being a burden on people. Everybody that I've talked to so far that has investigated their affordable health care has found that it has quite a bit higher price than what they are currently paying. I see it as more government involvement in something that really should be left more to private enterprise. And so I would say I was probably against that Affordable Health Care Act.
Thank you. Mr. Parrish.
In spite of what I believe were promises to me from some of my national leaders, I received a letter from my insurance company saying, you will not be allowed to renew this policy. You will have to turn to the state exchange and find something to service your family's needs, which frankly didn't surprise me. It did upset me a little bit, but I'm hoping I'll get something cheaper than what I've got right now because it costs me a lot and doesn't cover anything. I don't want my city employees feeling that same way. They need to know that we're going to find the very best benefits we can at the most affordable rate that we can get it for them. And if that means using the Affordable Care Act, because that is going to be the law, great, let's get it, because that's what it is. I could not be more opposed to the Affordable Care Act. Don't misunderstand me. But as far as providing for our employees' needs, our obligation is to find the best benefits we can for them at the most affordable rate. And so we'll do that within the constraints the law allows. And we'll use that Affordable Care Act to our advantage until the day comes when we can get rid of the darn thing. There is no question in my mind, centralization is never a better option. Putting the government in charge is the best way I know to make something fail. And we've seen it over the last few weeks, and I believe we're going to see more of it. But as far as our city is concerned, we will use whatever resources we have available to provide the best benefits for our people at the lowest rate available.
Thank you. Mr. Pippin?
Well, in a word, the Affordable Health Care Act, in my opinion, is poorly conceived and badly written. And as we've seen thus far, I'm not convinced it's workable. However, like others have mentioned, it is the law. We have an obligation to try to provide the best possible coverage for our employees, help our citizens understand what it is to the extent that we can, and to make it work until such time as we can garner the votes to get it overturned. And I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. And so that's kind of where I am. I think it needs to be overturned, but we have to make it work until such time as it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Collier?
The Affordable Care Act is the law, and we have to obey the law. But I think we all agree that very ill-conceived in most of its parts. I just heard a town meeting by Senator Crapo today saying that there are some points in the Affordable Care Act that he thinks are good, but he agrees that most of it is very detrimental to us. I have a daughter who is in the workforce, and she has no insurance. She has a option of paying several $100s a month that she's not been paying before for a $5,000 deductible, or pay a penalty of $50, which will, as I understand, will increase over the years to be so much that it becomes more than having the insurance. So it's something we've got to work against.
Thank you. Mr. Kramer?
Affordable Health Care Act will impact us, yes. And I could say how many of you understand what the Affordable Health Care is and what it covers. But I'd have better luck asking our legislators that passed this law, what does it cover and what are the benefits? They have come out on record saying that they don't even understand it. But it's passed, and so we're going to have to live with it. Are there good parts to it? Undoubtedly there are. But right now, they are at such far odds, we aren't even close to a compromise on anything. So how do we as a city of Chubbuck work with the Affordable Health Care Act concerning the employees. Number one, we contact the insurance companies, let them put the presentation on before us, and let them sell us on the best policies that they have available. And we go to as many insurance companies as possible and let them compete for our business. They're in business because they insure people, and we provide people for them to be insured, and we pay our premiums. And so to live with the Affordable Health Care Act, we shop, we call and let them put on the presentation so that our employees know what they're going to receive for the money they invest.
Thank you. This is the last question of the evening. It'll go to Mr. Lewis first, and then after this question, we'll have 30-second concluding remarks from each candidate. What is the single most important thing you will do to continue to improve the quality of life in Chubbuck?
I think the key to that question is continue to improve. I'll say it again, we live in a pretty darn good place. We are lucky. What I will do as a city councilman is I will listen, I will investigate. I will have a city council packet, and I guarantee you that I will know the issues that come before me as a city councilman before I even think about the vote that I'm going to take on that. I will ask the employees of the city who are the experts. I think you've probably all seen that show, Undercover Boss, where the CEOs go out and they do the jobs, they get involved where the employees are doing the jobs that company does, and they realize how hardworking those employees are. I believe that is the case in the city of Chubbuck too, and I will go to the different departments, and I will go to the department heads, and I will seek out the advice of the experts in the area, because I certainly am not an expert in the various departments of the city of Chubbuck. As your city councilman, I will investigate those issues and ask those questions so that I can make the best decision possible under the circumstances. Will it be ideal and perfect? It's probably going to affect somebody in a way that they don't like. But I hope to make the biggest positive effect on the city that I can without affecting negatively, with reducing that as much as possible.
Thank you. Mr. Mansfield?
So I'm one of my clients for my job is the City of American Falls, and right now we're in the process of building a new $12 million wastewater treatment plant. And I was talking to the wastewater operator today, and we were talking to him about their upcoming election. They have 3 council seats that are available, and we asked him if he was concerned about any of the council members and the people that were running for those positions. And he told me no. He said he wasn't concerned, and he said the first thing that he does when a new council member gets in is he grabs them by the hand and he takes them for a walk, and he walks with them for a full day. And he shows them what he does on a daily basis, and he shows them everything that he has to deal with. That way, that council member has a better idea of what the constraints are of what that worker is dealing with on a daily basis. On my signs that I've posted around the city, it includes the slogan, "Your voice will be heard." And that's what I propose to do as a city council member. I will listen to the concerns of the people. I will listen to what their issues are and what their problems are. I can't guarantee that I'm always going to make the decision that is going to make everybody happy. In fact, I can almost guarantee not everybody's going to be happy every time. But I will make the most informed, best decisions that I can after researching the issue.
Thank you. Mr. Parrish?
I suspect the single most important thing that I can do to try to help build the future of Chubbuck is be the best person that I can be. Try to be a good businessman, try to do my job well, keeping criminals on the streets so the cops have something to do. That's what I do. Being a good father, trying to be a good husband. I don't know that I do that very well, but I'm going to keep trying. Try to keep the laws, try to live the way that I'm supposed to, serve in my church, try to do a good job at that. Keep working with the scouts. Keep trying to do the things that I'm supposed to do to be the kind of person that I want to live next to. And if I can be that kind of a person, maybe I can inspire the ones next to me to be that kind of a person also. So that we can have the kind of community you want to live with. Be the place you want to live, place you want to be. This is that community. That's why I'm here. I like my neighbors. I even know most of them. Most of them, I think, like me. I haven't asked them. Don't want to know the answer perhaps, but I go talk to them all the time, and they say, "Parrish, you need to pull those weeds." They're right, I do. We're working on it together to try to make this a place where we want to be, together. That's what's gotta happen, is build that community, build those neighborhoods, build those associations, relationships, be the kind of person they want me to be, because it's what I want them to be too. That's the most important thing I can do, be that person.
Thank you. Mr. Pippin?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I can do to help improve the quality of life in Chubbuck is to first and foremost talk to people. I've reiterated that a couple of times. Talk to the city employees. I've had a chance to visit with the fire chief and the police chief and the public works director and some of the guys who work out in the shops in the back of this building and find out what the issues are that are challenging them. What does it mean to them in terms of what's quality of life? The second thing, operate from a position of facts, accurate and timely information. Sometimes one of the problems we have in the community is a lot of speculation that's not based on fact, and I'm going to try to stay away from that as much as I can, and to communicate my thoughts and ideas clearly, precisely, and based on factual information, and then we'll work together to see what needs to be done based on that factual information and communicating channels. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Collier?
I think the thing that I would do is see what would be our vision for the future and where we're going, and then to do some very detailed planning on how we're going to accomplish that.
Thank you. Mr. Kramer?
On my desk, I used to have a little saying that said, proper planning prevents poor performance. As a city councilor, you have to know what the issues are. In order to know those issues, you have to go out and visit with people. And then as you understand what the issues are with the citizens, then you go to your department heads and you visit with them. And as you evaluate your budget, and as we go to a zero-based budget, we're able to separate needs versus wants as a city.